Good afternoon and welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting on March 11th, 2024. In accordance with LB 898, please be advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Following the pledge, we will observe a moment of silent meditation. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda. Under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item must first register and sign in at the table located in the lobby. The council shall require any member of the public desiring to address the council to identify himself or herself, including an address and the name of any organization represented by such person, unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. Anyone wishing to speak on an item on the agenda should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, organization, and whether you are speaking in favor of or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date, nor planned for a future agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first item of business?
Our first item of business today on the agenda is our consent agenda, sections 1, 2, and 3.
Is there anyone here to speak on the consent agenda? That would be anything listed under sections 1, 2, or 3. Anyone here to speak on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, let's move forward.
We can vote on these items. Item 1A is reappointing Mark Kenny and Tom Houston to the Urban Design Committee for terms to expire February 1st, 2027, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson, discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1B is approving Avenue 6113 LLC doing business as Arnold's located at 6113 Havelock Avenue as a Keno satellite, introduced by Duden.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson, discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Okay, that concludes our consent agenda. Section 4 is our public hearing liquor resolutions. I'll call items 4A and 4B together. Item 4A and B is application of Boiler Brewing Company, LLC, doing business as Boiler Brewing Company for a Class I liquor license located at 129 North 10th Street, Suite 8, and the related manager application of Thad M. Ayers.
Is there anyone here to speak on items 4A and 4B? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and move on, Madam Clerk, to 4C.
Item 4C is manager application of Theodore E. Tyrell for WHIMOL LLC, doing business as Canopy Street Market located at 140 South Canopy Street.
Is there anyone here to speak on item 4C? Anyone for 4C? All right, seeing none.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one coming forward to speak on these three items, I'd like to motion that we approve items 4A, B, and C.
Second.
Move Schob, seconded Washington, discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Okay. That concludes section 4 of our agenda. Section 5 is our public hearing ordinances, second reading, and related resolutions. Item 5A is amending Lincoln Municipal Code Section 4.62.020, retirement information to change reporting and timing requirements, duties for police and fire pension plan, investment board plan administrator.
Director McIntyre, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Barb McIntyre, 575 South 10th Street. And what we are doing with this is today we do an annual summary report, and we do that as of December 31st. So we're cleaning up that date to get the right date in there. And the big thing we want to do is we do distribute these to active police and fire pension members. So if they're active employees, we want to be able to email them because we have all their email addresses versus U.S. Postal Mail, which is what we're doing today because it's in code that we have to mail them. So that's our big change, is just trying to have some efficiencies here and be able to email those summaries out instead of postal mail them. Retirees will still get theirs via the U.S. Postal Mail unless we have their email address, but we don't have those for all retirees. So that's one change. And the other change is just really clean up to reflect what we're doing as far as the independent private organization which prepares our analysis. So that is the change in this.
Questions for Director McIntyre? Yes, Councilman.
Could a member request that they continue the mail?
Yeah, if they wanted to request continue mail, yep, that would be just fine.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, see none. Thank you, Director. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on item 5A? Anyone else here to speak on item 5A? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and call 5B.
Item 5B is amending Lincoln Municipal Code Section 2.76.220, age requirements to adjust the age requirement for employment with the City of Lincoln by amending Section 2.76.340, appointments to clarify eligibility dates when an employee is removed from probation early, by amending Section 2.76.370, authorized holidays, to clarify that authorized paid holidays apply to employees in a pay range prefixed by M, by amending Section 2.76.380, sick leave with pay, to remove the word overtime as the limit to accrual of sick leave and state that the maximum sick leave accruals are based on a set number of hours per week, by amending Section 2.76.495, early retirement, to change the retirement eligibility requirements by removing length of service requirements and setting one specific age for retirement eligibility, ending the distinction between early and normal retirement, and by repealing Section 2.76.500, normal retirement, by deleting this section to establish one universal retirement eligibility requirement for city employees.
Director.
All right, there's a lot there. Barb McIntyre, 575 South 10th Street. So let's just start with the age requirement and why we're moving that down to age 15. We piloted this last year with a specific category of employees, and those are the ones that work at our aquatic center, in our concession stands, or our customer service positions there. And it went really well. It provided this group of students an opportunity to have some summer work that fits really nicely in between when school gets out and school starts again. And it also, they get to know the aquatics and the work that is involved in that. So then we can keep them and they can move into, when they turn 16, more of our lifeguard positions. And it enabled us to open all the pools last year. So it was a great success. And we want to go ahead and make the change permanent now, where we can hire those 15-year-olds. And Director Maggie Stuckey-Ross is here too, if you want more specifics on how that worked last year.
Questions for Director or for Director Stuckey-Ross? All right, see none.
I got a question.
Yes, Councilman.
That was, because this covers two sections. It covers the early, and it also talked about the retirement age.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and take each code change and talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
So I just
I'm
covered
jumping
the
down
age
on
one.
this.
I'll keep going unless
Yeah.
there's questions.
Oh,
All right.
We just wanted to make sure there were no questions for Director Stuckey-Ross there. Director McIntyre, why don't you go ahead and continue
Yep.
with the rest?
So now 276340 appointments. It is a rare occasion, but every once in a while we have a really good reason to want to release someone from original probation early. So generally when we hire someone, on average, they serve a 6-month probationary period. And sometimes there's no latitude and code that affords us to take them off early, but sometimes we have a really good reason to do that. And this was a request for us to be able to allow this in the rare circumstance that we would need to remove someone from that original probation period early. And I can only think of one time it's happened, so in my 2 years, so it's very, very rare, but it does occur once in a while. I'll keep going.
Questions on that one? Okay.
So 276370, authorized holidays. As long as we're looking at code, every once in a while we'll see something that stands out. We noticed that IMs were not listed in our holiday provision Our employees in the M category do get holidays. Those are our management level positions. So this is really cleanup just to get them added into this section of code.
Okay. Questions on that? All right, let's move on to sick leave.
So this is 276380, sick leave and leave with pay. It's really cleanup to make what we do more clear, because we do have employees that they're going to work their full 40 hours, but not all that full 40 is always at their regular rate. Some of that could be at overtime, and we do want them to earn their full accruals on working those 40 hours if they work them in the pay period. So it's just cleanup to make it more clear and match what we're doing.
Questions on sick leave? All right, let's go ahead and move on to early retirement.
So I am going to ask if next week when you vote on this, we got a little ahead of ourselves and we need to do a little more research on 276495 and 276500. We want to just do a deeper dive into what our cities in our array are doing, take a look at the state of Nebraska. It'll probably come back in front of you, but I want a little more time to look at this a little closer. So we will be asking for an amendment next week to remove it from what we're having you vote on.
Okay. Councilman Dune, did you have a question for?
Well, that was pertaining
Director?
to that, yeah, is what I was kind of wondering about as to what the age was going to be, that sort of thing, because that's kind of left out of the language here.
Yep.
And that's what you wanted to,
That's one we want to take a little more time with and do a little more research on. So
so do we need to make a motion to separate this?
Well, Director, it seems as though you'll be getting that information in the intervening week. Is that correct?
I'm going to let Johansi talk to the way
legality.
it's handled.
Sure.
So this is second reading. During the voting session next week, there will be a motion to amend that'll have a substitute ordinance removing those two sections, and at that time, we would present that to you and ask for a motion and vote at that time.
Sure.
So,
Councilman, if it makes sense to you, do you want to go ahead and wait for those motions to amend to come in and then decide next week if you want to continue
So would the
public
public
hearing?
be able to make a comment at that meeting next week?
well, this is public hearing now, and so it was noticed, and so we can have it's open for public hearing now for anyone to come speak to.
Speak on it.
Next week is just the voting session, and so it's not scheduled.
But we're
for-
making changes to it.
The proposal is to withdraw it altogether and leave it the same.
Oh,
So the motion to amend next week is to
is to remove it.
remove it and leave it as is.
Okay,
So there's not a change in language, simply
Yes, correct.
removal of.
To remove it.
that's different.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
Right.
now I understand
Okay.
it.
Yes.
Thank you.
all right.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we're good.
Unless there's anyone here who'd
Yep.
like to talk about early
Well,
retirement.
I think that we are through 5B in its totality. Is there anyone from the public here who would like to speak on item 5B? Welcome, Ms. Kinsey.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs, and you're on 5B,
Yes, ma'am.
and this was about the 15-year-olds, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope there's some kind of assessment of a 15-year-old and to whether they're able to do this. Some 15-year-olds are very immature, some are mature. And to have a blanket age only is suspect. We also have, as I have questioned before, using TikTok to find lifeguards. I will speak to that in the public hearing, but I also want to emphasize that there are ways to find these young people besides doing something that is suspect for the United States. So at this time, we're going to make a complaint about that and urge the employment office to consider that and the city mayor's office.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on item 5B? Director McIntyre, may I have you come up here really quickly? Just a quick follow-up question for you. It is my understanding that Parks and Rec continues to review applicants on a case-by-case basis and assess their maturity, for example, if we're 15 years old or perhaps prior experience, and those are made on individual basis. And then my understanding is also that there are only certain positions in the swimming pools that 15-year-olds are actually assigned to. Is that correct?
Correct. So they have to go through the standard hiring process, and they have to interview just like we would interview anyone else when we're bringing them on. And our 15-year-olds are limited to the concession stand or customer service, that front desk at the swimming pools. They cannot work in the lifeguard positions or some of those other positions. But it was definitely a way for us to prioritize our staff who've had more experience into the positions where we need them, and then open up those opportunities for those younger applicants in just those two specific roles.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Director.
Got a quick, in like fast food restaurants, like you can get hired at 14, like at Amigos and Burger King, right?
Correct. You can. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Director.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and move on, Madam Clerk, to item 5C.
I'll be calling item 5C and 5D together. Item 5C and D is approving the First Amendment to Landmark Center redevelopment agreement between the city and NEBCO, Inc. to adjust TIF bond interest rate, and amending ordinance number 21084 to increase the maximum allowable interest rate of the bonds, to repeal certain provisions of ordinance number 21084 in connection therewith, taking other action in connection with the foregoing and related matters.
Mike, welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Rogers, bond counsel for the city. Address 2120 South 72nd Street in Omaha with Gilmore and Bell, PC. The amendments before you are to adjust the maximum interest rate permitted on the tax increment financing in June of 2021, when the original ordinance was approved for the tax increment bond, and also the redevelopment agreement. The maximum interest rate was set at 6%. This request is coming from the redeveloper to have the maximum interest rate set at 8%. As we all know, interest rates have risen since June of 2021, so that's the amendment. The ordinances have to be amended by repealing a section or replacing it. That's why the ordinance is several pages long. Instead of just changing one number, we have to go through a longer exercise, but that's the one thing being changed in the ordinance, and the same with the redevelopment agreement amendment. Director Hein here is available to answer questions, as is the developer's lawyer, Danae Kalkowski. If there are any questions you have for me, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Questions for Mike? Yes, Councilman?
Which project is this for?
I'm sorry?
Is this for a specific project?
Yes, it is for the Landmark 2 Center, or 2 Landmark Center. I apologize if I'm getting the name fumbled there, but
Director?
Hi, Peter Hein, Director of Urban Development, 555 South 10th Street. Councilman Dude and I can just show you. I thought it would be helpful as well. This is for 1121 Lincoln Mall. The TIF amount, or the project value amount, was $17 million in the agreement. That's what we projected it was going to be. And I have on the screen here the new value of $21,380,000. So the increment is there, and so there's no concern about, covering an increase in any of the interest rate or anything like that. So there's no real concern from us.
Thank you. Appreciate that understanding. Thank you.
Other questions?
I have one.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Director Hind, seeing that number, the increased valuation at 21 some change million, are we able to go further down the priority list we have?
We only can go the 5%, the 5% cap. And so I'll go back and look at where we are in terms of answering and completing that priority list and see how far we can go in those, yeah.
All right,
That's a
thank
good-
you.
That's a good question.
Other questions? I'll ask a quick question. I'm assuming that this particular developer also holds the bond?
Yes, yes, I believe that's true, yes.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Danae, welcome.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. Danae Kalkowski appearing today on behalf of Nebco Inc. So they're the owner of the project, 1128 Lincoln Mall, Suite 105. So I just wanted to give you just a little update on the project too, since we're back. Kind of things are really pretty much completed on the building. They turned the building over to the new tenant in November. And in fact, many of the offices open for business in February. So we've got people working out of the office right now. I think there's maybe a little more finish to do on the first floor. But obviously, as Peter said and Mike said, the result of the request is just the change in the interest rate environment. We really aren't changing the principal balance of the TIF. That stays the same. It's really just the available interest, because the cost of carrying those costs is obviously higher with the interest rates. But the beauty of it is we've got a project that's brought even much more increased value to the city of Lincoln. So those bonds obviously will typically be paid off faster and get the property back on the tax rolls for its full value. So that's all very, very positive, I think, as we look at this project. But supportive of the changes, requested the changes, so we'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any on the development side.
Any questions for Danae? Okay, thank you so
Beautiful
much.
building.
It is a beautiful building. Thank you.
Thank you, Danae, for coming down. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on items 5C and 5D?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. I would like to know the effect for the taxpayers. We've been told that TIF does not affect the taxpayer, but what is the purpose of this? And if it's just a matter of the developer and the bond company, that's one issue. If it affects the taxpayers in any way, we want to know that. And also, what happens if the interest rates drop, which could happen this year.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to testify on this item? All right, seeing none. Mike, Peter, would you like to guys come up and address those concerns?
Yes, thank you. Again, Mike Rogers, bond counsel for the city. As with every tax increment financing, according to the redevelopment laws, the city and the city's taxpayers are not obligated with respect to any debt service on those. The only thing that's pledged from the city is the incremental increase on tax revenues. If those fall short, then whoever the holder of the bond is the one responsible for the shortfall. They're the ones at risk. The city taxpayers and the city's general fund, importantly, is not at risk on this. Only that incremental increase in revenues. So that's one. And those are held in a special fund of the city, dedicated solely to paying tax increment financing debt service. So there is strong statutory protection for the city and the city's taxpayers on that question. If interest rates change and drop, that's something that is not possible to predict for anyone here. And whenever anyone does a financing that's a long-term financing, tax increment financings are typically 15 years long. You usually lock the interest rate in at the start, and if rates go up or down, then that's also the risk of whoever the bondholder is. If they stay the same, then that's fine. But this is not a variable rate instrument. It would be a fixed rate instrument like most other, actually like every other tax increment financing the city has. The interest rate is set at closing, and it stays in place for the duration of the 15 years. There are many financings that were closed and finalized during that period of time when interest rates were extremely low, and those interest rates don't change over the course of the financing. This financing has not closed yet. Once it does close and the interest rate is set, that would be locked in for the duration of the transaction.
Do you have anything to add, Director?
Mike said what I was going to say, so he did it much better than I would. The only thing I was going to add is all of our redevelopment agreements have a range in the interest rates to try and cover that spread. So nothing's pegged to a certain exact rate, but in this case, we were at 3.5% to 6%, and we just moved that higher end to 8%. That's what it was. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you both. We appreciate it. Danae, I'm assuming there's nothing else you want to add. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and move forward, Madam Clerk.
That concludes Section 5 of our agenda. We shall move to Section 6, Ordinances, Third Reading, and Related Resolutions. Item 6A is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classification are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter A by changing the title from Community Outreach Forester to Assistant City Forester, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Washington, discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6B is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter M by creating the classification City Forester, introduced by Carlson.
So moved. Second.
Second, Weber, discussion.
Yes.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I had a lot of emails and a phone call on this issue, both the last one and this one. And I just wanted to let folks know that I have done a lot of homework on this, and it makes really good sense to me that we are going to reinstate a city forester position, and that the rest of the reorganization of that program is in line with best practices and with a really well-run, well-organized forestry program. And with that, I am confident that this is the right path forward, and I fully support this change.
Other comments? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6C is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range which is prefixed by the letter N by deleting the classifications for parks welder, custodian, parks electrician, and parks plumber, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Washington, discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6D is text amendment 24001, application of E&A Consulting to amend Lincoln Municipal Code, section 27.06.070, household living use group table, and section 27.62.040, household living use group to allow dwellings, including multifamily, single-family, townhouses, and two-family dwellings, to be permitted uses instead of conditional uses within the B1 zoning district, introduced by Carlson.
So moved. Second.
Second, Weber, discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. And item 6E is approving a lease agreement between the City of Lincoln and National Able Network for the lease of space by National Able Network at 1330 N Street, Suite A and B, from February 1st, 2024 through December 31st of 2029, introduced by Carlson.
So moved. Second.
Second, Weber, discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Okay. That concludes Section 6 of our agenda. Section 7 is resolutions first readings or items 7A through 7D. Section 8 is our pending list, items 8A through 8H.
Let's move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda nor plan to appear on a future agenda may do so during public comment. Individuals are allowed a total of 5 minutes to speak regardless of the number of topics. For the month of March, public comment session will be held today, March 11th, 2024, and March 25th, 2024. Is there anyone here to speak tonight on public comment? Please come forward. And if we have more than one individual, we'll have one individual here at this podium. If someone else would like to talk, you're more than welcome to go ahead and come down and get ready here at this other podium. Hello, welcome.
My name is Maimun Qureshi. I live at 8040 Abigail Drive. First off, happy Ramadan. But I'm here to talk about two things today and how it's into a bigger issue than just one conversation. So first off, most of the city probably knows about the recent controversy involving the tennis expansion at Woods Park. There's an entire argument between both sides. Some people want to expand it, some people don't. One of my things I want to talk about is not only Woods Park, but just really any project as a whole outside of roads, recreational, green space. I think the issue is that not only with Woods Park, we don't have an understanding of how much these projects can benefit us, and we don't look at them too closely to see how are they going to truly help a city. Yeah, the aesthetic might be a little displeasing because it's a warehouse, but how many people will it help? As an example, I went to the Google Maps at Woods Park, and I went back throughout a few years. Every time with the tennis courts there, it was jam-packed, parking lot, people everywhere. It was used. Do I think that tennis court should only be at Woods Park? No, I think it should be spread out. But the point is, this is the same issue with many other projects. As an example, a lot of trails with the Lincoln Parks and Recreation Department. I read their document about a lot of the plans they want to push for their trails. And some of them don't even reach a mile, and they're going to take 6 years, sometimes as far as that. Why is it that there's a stigma that, as an example, a pothole in a road when it's winter, a pothole will immediately be cleaned up by the city and will be prioritized. But what if there's a pothole on the N Street bikeway? Or another example, there could be a push to make miles and miles of roads with millions of dollars without much of a thorough assessment. But what about the new Q and P bike lanes? Those only require paint, and it's been 2 years, and there's no progress on it. It takes 2 years to put some paint down when the entire plan is constructed. I think that all these other messages, all these other ways of transportation that people sometimes have to depend on aren't prioritized. And the same could be to the bus transfer station. I'm definitely up for conversation. Conversation is essential, as Mr. Bowers is doing. But I think that in the near future, I hope that there's able to be more education in a sense to teach the people that these services like busing and biking is important. Because yeah, Lincoln will be a car-dependent city, but there are still thousands of people who are going to depend or want to use these systems. And sometimes it can physically save somebody's life. There was a study done by the UCLA, and the concept of an off-street recreational trail, like the Billy Wolf Trail. There's one near our house. If you're somebody who has diabetes as an example, and you do even 10 minutes of walking, it can be a life-saving change. And allowing for these people to at least do it for recreational purposes is going to help them. And I think that there's a lot of outdated policies that need to be looked at and a lot more education about what needs to be done. And as I said before at the previous meeting, there's a lot of ways you can do this. In some cities, like in New York City and Milwaukee, it was a fully car-centric environment. But there was nonprofits that were started, like Strong Towns, that helped change it. And it's possible, I'll say that right now. It's not limited to Lincoln. Omaha's been doing it, and that's probably because it's a bigger city, but with how UNL is here, I think you could take the minds of young people and be able to help collaborate on these projects to benefit the residents, because Lincoln definitely has the ability to improve the quality of life for everybody. Bus, biking, walking, driving. I mean, look at 9th and 10th Street out there. They're extremely wide. Or on some streets like O Street, you can add a bus lane and there'll still be enough lanes for people to drive. It's just people don't see the positives of it yet because transit is looked down upon, biking is looked down upon, walking is looked down upon. And sometimes even an event as small as walk to work or bike to work, that will still be able to change that stigma, which is why I think there should be a lot more investment into just overall educating people on how these methods of transportation are necessary and not only a choice as well. Other than that, thank you.
You're very good at hitting your 5-minute mark. We appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Before we get to our next speaker, if there's anyone else here who would like to speak, please go ahead and come forward to the other podium and prepare. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Ulysses Martin. I'm the head of the SCC Young Democrats Club. First of all, I want to say I agree with that statement a whole lot. I think that there needs to be better access to public transportation and more funding for education on it. Second of all, I'd like to state some simple facts. Since the attack on October 7th, there are 31,000 civilians have died. 100 more have... sorry. Let me start over real quick. On October 7th, Hamas attacked Israel. Since then, 31,000 innocent civilians have been killed in Gaza, with hundreds more killed in the occupied West Bank. Of those 31,000 civilians, 13,000 are children and 8,000 are women. More than 72,000 people have been injured as a result of Israel's haphazard bombing of the region. Every hour in Gaza, 15 people are killed, with 6 of those estimated to be children. 35 people are injured, 42 bombs are dropped, and 13 buildings are destroyed. Comparatively, 12,000 Israelis have been killed and 8,000 injured since October 7th. How anyone can hear numbers like this and stay silent is beyond me, I guess. And I would just like to ask for a ceasefire resolution to be brought to the table. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for coming down. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else here who would like to testify during open microphone? Please, both come on down. Come on down.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and take one podium here, another podium over here.
I wish you could do something about that, but we know that you can't, the former testifier.
Welcome.
I'm Rosina Paolini, PA of the 1850 Dakota Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. Thanks for responding to my last letter. I really appreciate the feedback. And yes, we are in a budget cycle that we do not know what will happen, but we must move forward. Thanks. It was great to see some of you folks at the Woods tennis meetings, the open meetings. That was fabulous. The attendance was amazing. The outreach was not dialogue, it was monologue, but we got a lot of opinions out there. And some some really good facts I didn't know. Conflicts over the use of public land, though, is not new to the Lincoln Parks and Recreation Department. It kind of started with a zoo. They kind of moved Lincoln Parks and Recreation out of the zoo area, right? And then being a resident at 2600 C Street for 15 years, between 86 and 2000, I can share with you that they spread into the neighborhood with their parking, much like what was described with Woods Park. With the zoo, they also then took over affordable housing, about a block of it. And they're still spreading into residential neighborhoods with their parking. I think this might be an example of the future. We only need to look at the zoo as an example. It's a business, nonprofit, but it's a business doing quite well, much like the tennis courts. The tennis folks, they're doing quite well. So when we pit, and by the way, that's like not the parks director, the current parks director fault, right? The zoo was way before her time. When we brought together the mediation, however, that, in hindsight, we kind of brought two conflicts of interest, two interests together, one a business, one public, and that did not result in conversation or dialogue. It seemed to be more who's not at the table, who's at the table, and we're really not talking with each other because we're talking with the mediator. So I think we could have had much better conversation and dialogue and been further along with some resolve. Moving forward, however, with these public meetings, I really appreciated that there were a lot of different interests. I heard I, me a lot versus community and we. Being kind of a community and we person, that did concern me. And I think, again, when we look at a a nonprofit business in public space and it's pushing out the public, it becomes more than the Parks and Recreation Department's issue. It is a city issue. And I know it comes before you all at some point. But I think that might be a precedent that we don't want to continue to continue, right? The other question that I would have, a lot of these entities, I'll take the Pinnacle Bank Arena, benefit greatly from Pinewood Bowl. However, Parks and Recreation does not. They do a lot of maintenance, they do a lot of upkeep, but their lease agreement isn't real great with Arena. So maybe that needs to be looked at. What kind of agreement does the Woods Tennis Foundation have with the park? I honestly don't know. I know it's a lease agreement. Is it equitable? Does it cover all of the staff that it takes to manage these tournaments, much like Pinewood Bowl, maintain the grounds, clean up the litter, and that sort of thing? So what I would hope for in the end is a walk audit, because as we push residential parking into the residences, then we start dealing with kids running across the street in the residential neighborhoods, and is it safe? So a walk audit would be appropriate, a traffic audit would be appropriate, and an environmental impact study would be appropriate, so that we really understand that as we continue expanding, because I'm old enough to have watched them expand a lot, just like at the zoo. Oops.
Go ahead and finish up. Real
Right?
quick.
Those ding-dangs, they really help me. Anyway, but do you get my point? And do you have questions, or am I asking good questions?
Any questions at all?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilman?
You kind of lost me when you said bring the precedent. And when I say lost me, I don't mean disagree. I didn't understand what you meant by setting a precedent that it comes in front of council. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Oh, no, okay, so I jumped on you. So my hope was that the precedent that had been set as far as how we have businesses, thriving businesses on public land that push out the public users, I would not want to continue that precedent. That we really need to be very mindful, according to our comprehensive plan, that we're being inclusive and equitable to our citizens.
Gotcha.
So, yes, I skipped a beat.
My
You know
wires
what?
and ears got
I've
crossed.
done this for how many years? I'm still nervous. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
We
Any
appreciate
other?
it.
We're good?
No, thank you. We will take this gentleman's testimony, and then if there's anyone else here who would like to testify, please come forward now to this podium, this empty podium here. Sir, welcome.
Oh, thank you. I set my timer for 5 minutes here, so.
Perfect, and you have a little screen in front of you that'll count down as well.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I got to see it now.
Welcome.
Oh, my name is Elgin Hunt. I live at 741 South 32nd Street, and I've lived near Woods Park since 1969. And we love the park. My comments here are very personal. We just get hurt seeing the park being taken away from what it was supposed to be, and that is a park. Trees. I was up in Omaha near Gretna several days ago. Not sure how this video thing works here, but there were construction being done near the Nebraska Crossing Mall. And you see piles of trees that are ground up, and it appears to be almost a desert scape. They want to take out more trees to add parking. And what struck me at the hearing was they're not adding more parking. they're adding more tennis courts. Our neighborhood is always swamped by cars parked there because of the overflow parking when they have a tennis event, a swim meet. So I thought at first they were going to be adding more parking. No, they're not. They're taking out more trees to add more courts. And trees don't get put back automatically. They're hundreds of years old. You may not recall back in our neighborhood near Woods Park had the old elm trees. And they were taken out because of Dutch elm disease. It changed the entire neighborhood's climate for years. I lived over in T-Town when they widened Vine Street. I walked over there during the construction. And I was young, very young. I'm kind of getting up there now, but that notwithstanding, I was stunned at how hot it was while they were doing the construction because all the trees were gone. So I'm not very good at speaking in public, but my heart goes out to, please, it's a park. Tennis courts, someone said at the hearing last Saturday that trees were not native to Nebraska. I thought, I guess I must have missed somewhere along the line. The tennis courts are, because I don't want to say that was an unusual comment, how I thought education-wise, but I was kind of stunned at that comment. Trees help keep our planet thriving. They make our town better. I'm just going to wrap it up by saying, I haven't talked very long at all.
Getting the hang of it.
Thank you for your time, and thank you again.
Thank you for coming down. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak during public comment? Ms. Kinsey, welcome.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. The U.S. House of Representatives, under the auspices of the Energy and Commerce Committee, with the sponsors of the chairman, Mike Gallagher, as a Republican, and a ranking member, Democrat, Raha Krishna Morathri, have directed a proposal or have passed a bill to require that the United States divest of China's control of the social medium TikTok. President Biden has pledged to sign it. Watchdogs calls on the mayor, her office, staff, and the city council to pledge to follow the leadership of the U.S. government by putting forth a resolution to do so in Lincoln, Nebraska, and to immediately stop all use of the social outlet. In another note, we are concerned about the proposal for the convention center for Lincoln, Nebraska, for two reasons. We had one and it failed. Why should we have another one, or a proposal to have another one? We have doubts as to whether this is really needed. A second concern is the plan to tax the public in order to finance it. We have many taxes now: a wheel tax, an occupation tax, a street tax, and of course the abominable property tax. If the Chamber of Commerce and Business want this project, they should finance it privately or arrange financing themselves. It is distressing to find that the first line of financing was for the public to pay for it by sending Elia Bostar to the legislature to sponsor legislation for it. It is a bad habit of the public to go to taxpayers for financing because it is the easiest route to raise money. Because of this project, and unless this project is financed privately, Watchdogs will make it difficult to support it, and we will do whatever we can to help the public know that it is not in their best interest to do so. If the businesses and the chamber wants this, they need to come up with a better explanation as to why it is needed and not bully the post office to use their place. It just seems like something that a few people want in Lincoln and that we really haven't sold to the public as necessary. So again, we ask that you follow the U.S. Proposal. The ACL about TikTok. The ACLU has stated that this is a slam against free speech. But we have been assured by the sponsors that it would not be against free speech. It is to protect us from China, who is now making all kind of inroads into our country, buying property that's agricultural near military bases, having sky balloons over our country, sending at this time their citizens to the United States when the border is open on, particularly on California. So, and these people have come with suitcases. They're not here for amnesty. They are here to do, it appears, some kind of plan to undercut our country.
Ms. Kinsey, you've reached your 5 minutes.
I'll close with that.
Yep, you've reached your 5 minutes. And just one quick comment, Ms. Kinsey. One quick comment for you regarding the convention center. The convention center is under the purview of the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners, not the Lincoln City Council.
Well, won't you have to vote for it?
No, ma'am. Any discussion you want to have regarding the previous convention center proposals that were made several years ago and/or additional taxation? That's a discussion for the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, but you won't have to approve if they want land from?
Not necessarily, no. Not unless it's land owned by the city of Lincoln.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I'll put the bug in your ear anyway.
You did.
Is there anyone else here who would like to speak during public comment? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Moved to Duden, seconded Washington. Please call the roll.
Duden,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes,
Motion carried 7-0.
we are adjourned.